Loud. Perfect. And we are live. This is episode 3 with Strong by Lee, David Lee, and Power by Pam.
Yeah,
Realist.
finally.
Yeah, Trillist to the realist.
Yeah.
Okay. So today we are going to be talking about primarily how social media, in particular media maybe, but social media in large part affects people's body image, self-image,
Yeah.
how they view themselves, their perception of reality, their work ethic, and
hmm
progress and results, and maybe even what they should be following.
hmm
I want to lead this off with a Facebook post that I put up the other day that kind of inspired us to talk about. Well, you inspired me to talk. You inspired this conversation, but then I put up this post because I was inspired by your inspiration.
Yeah, let's be honest. It started with me, okay?
Well, you inspired it because you're in that sphere.
Yeah.
I'm not a woman, and
hmm
while I work with women, I can't just biologically understand what a woman
Yeah.
goes through. We in our previous episode we did touch on how some fitness influencers through good intent, right? The road to hell is paved with good intentions. Through good
Yeah.
intentions can actually do more damage than good because unbeknownst to them, they might be virtue signaling and gaslighting, either through them posting up how they're so insecure about their bodies, but they're posing half naked in their lingerie or in their swimsuit and saying, "Oh my gosh, I've got a six pack, but I've got this little bit of fat here, yada yada yada." And then they're telling people to put in more work, or if you want results, you have to go after it, things of that nature, without taking into account that some people might actually be working their tails off and not seeing the
Yeah.
results through no fault of their own. And then, of course, you have these comments on these posts saying, "Oh my God, you're such an inspiration. You're amazing. You're so successful. I wish I could be like you." If I was any of those people, in the back of my mind, I would probably be thinking, yeah, well, guess what? You don't, you've got everything going for you. You're lucky. You have great genetics, yada, yada, yada. Things in life are so peachy for you. And here I am stuck in this hellhole and I can't really do much. And I'm stressed out. And my dad is sick or somebody else is sick. And my job right now, although I love what I do, I hate how I'm doing it, things of that nature. And I feel like I'm putting my health at risk by being a first responder and being an essential worker. And I really don't have any say in it. Right. Um, and I started talking about how some of these influencers are toxic. There's toxic positivity, gaslighting, and virtue signaling, and that by them putting up those pictures in their photos with those descriptions, they're actually breaking down people's confidence more,
hmm
and then leading to a friend who is very attractive, very strong, great personality, just a wonderful person to be around, having to disable her Instagram account because she just felt because she's probably feeling emotionally manipulated.
hmm Yeah.
What do you think?
So what kind of sparked my idea for this was I was talking to one of my friends, as you mentioned, very attractive, wonderful personality, in my eyes, very in shape. And she had said to me, I mean, listen, the time that we're in right now is just it's different. So people are really going through it right now, and she happens to be one of those people. I mean, honestly, much like myself, she's struggling a bit, and some of those things that she's struggling a bit with right now is body image, right? And so she had said that she, deactivated her Instagram, not forever, but just for a short period of time because she just needed a break from what she was seeing in terms of looking at other people and comparing herself to them. She was taking her own insecurities and she was looking at someone else and saying, why don't I look like that? Why can't that be me? And what I was saying to her, and trust me, because I get it, because I did it for years, and I'm not perfect by any means, and I still go through it. So there's times where I catch myself doing the same thing, but I said to her, like you really need to take into account is, how real is that photo even, too many times people will admit later down the line that, oh, I did Photoshop that, or, I did make my stomach look flatter, or, whatever it may be. And I'm going to be 100% honest with you. I haven't done it in a very long time, but like years ago when I didn't feel that good about myself, I can't even lie to say that like I did Photoshop a couple photos, like a little bit, to tailor it to be more as to what I wanted to look like. I refuse to do it now because, this is who I am and I can't change that and I have to embrace it. But, too many women do it now. So we're looking at this photo of someone that's not even real, right? They've photoshopped their body, their faces, to make themselves look thinner, more toned, to, have their faces, their nose be thinner, their cheeks are, more defined, without taking into account that they don't even look like that in real life. I mean, and I feel like you hear that a lot, that, oh, in real life, they look a lot different. Not only that, it's the Photoshop, but it's also genetics. Trust me, at times I do wish that my genetics were a little bit different because I work really hard and I don't always feel that the way that I look shows that. I mean, we just had a very long conversation prior to this about that. But some people are more genetically gifted than others. And then also how long someone's been doing something for. There are fitness influencers out there who do have real bodies, and something that people don't take into account is how long they've been doing it for. Some of these people have been working out for 10, 12, 15 years. They started working out when they were in high school. Here they are in their late 20s, early 30s, and they have really built their bodies over the years. And so people don't always look at like where they started. They look at where they are now. They also look at, this photo that they see of them, that I don't want to say it's make believe, but we can't always believe what we see. And so that's kind of what I had said to her essentially. But it, really got me thinking that, she feels this way. I feel this way. How many other people feel this way, that they feel good, but then they go online and then they see someone and they're like, why don't I look like that? Like, why doesn't my nose look like that? Why doesn't my hair look like that? Why doesn't my body look like that, without taking into account all these other factors that are going into it?
It's interesting. You make some really good points talking about Photoshop. I've always thought people touch things up a little bit to make it a little bit more appealing. I've always thought they care about the lighting, they care about the angle. I know I've had clients in the past where I wanted to take a picture or a video of them working out, and they said, "Oh no, you got to stand over here, because stand over here, this is the more flattering side." And I'm sure that there's an element to that. You also talk about experience and length, how long somebody works out. You've only been working out really for 3 years.
Mm-hmm.
Like you said, some of these women, and I as a personal trainer, I am in cahoots with a lot of these women. Almost every single woman who's a personal trainer or who's really into fitness, I know, started when they were either a teenager or they've been playing sports for as long as they can remember. And when I ask them, or when somebody asks them, well, how'd you get into fitness? They go, oh, I love fitness. I've been working out all my life. I've been an athlete all of my life, as long as I can remember. As the first thing that I can remember ever waking up to was holding a ball in my hand, or holding a lacrosse stick or field hockey stick or something like that. They've been an athlete all their lives. They've had a massive head start, right? And I explained to a lot of women I work with are people who have never worked out before.
Mm-hmm.
You met my client Alicia. She's
Mm-hmm.
a beast, right? She's
Oh,
a beast.
yeah, she
But she
puts
had
to shame.
I mean, she's a
Yeah,
teacher,
she's
and
amazing.
she has never worked out before. Never worked out before,
Yeah.
and in less than a year, I rank. I know I shouldn't do this, but just in my mind, I rank how responsive somebody is to exercise into a fitness
Mhm.
program. Everyone responds, but everyone responds to a different degree. It's an order of magnitude. You responded really well, but Alicia was on a
Yeah.
completely different
Yeah.
level. And she's never worked out before, right? And I can only imagine people who work out in their preteens and then they continue to work out through their puberty. Puberty is basically an injection of a natural legal steroid, especially for boys. That's when up until puberty, girls and boys are usually on par with each other from a physical perspective. They're
Mhm.
generally as strong as each other, generally as fast as each other. But then when boys hit puberty, it's off to the races. It's crazy. But girls, if they continue to work out through puberty, they get a huge boost as well because of that massive hormonal fluctuation, right? So a lot of these women who look amazing, have ripped six pack, they're just straight out the wazoo, have been working out longer than some of these people who are fawning over them have been alive. And so
Mhm.
I think it's unfair, this whole culture of comparison. And it reminds me of a study that just came out this year. They did a survey on 3,700 14-year-olds in the UK, and the researchers were able to predict how many depressive episodes these teenagers, these boys and girls, would experience by the time they're 18 based on how dissatisfied they are with their bodies at age 14.
Very
And
interesting.
nowadays in the world, estimations run up to 61% of teenagers are dissatisfied with their body. Women in general are more dissatisfied with their thighs,
Mhm.
their stomach, and their weight.
Yeah.
Right. So 1 in 3 teenage girls are dissatisfied with their weight. 1 in 4 girls are dissatisfied with their image. The question is, why do we have 14-year-old girls dissatisfied with the way they look when they should be focusing on hanging out with friends, going to school, having a good relationship with their family, eating good foods and enjoying life? Why do we have girls who are dissatisfied with their body and are setting themselves up for massive depressive episodes before they even turn into an adult? That doesn't make any sense to me.
Yeah. I
And
mean, I really do think it's media based. And also, circling back to that, we didn't have like Facebook and Instagram until Facebook didn't come out for me until my last year of high school. And I wouldn't really say Facebook is like the culprit of comparing yourself to these influencers and stuff. It's more Snapchat and Instagram, I would say. Um, so I never really had that thought of comparing myself of why don't I look like this, or why can't I have this, or like that depressive state of how I looked. I had reservations about the way that I looked and I was self-conscious about certain things. But like as I was telling you, even when I was at my heaviest point, I never really looked at myself and was like, ew, because I had nothing to compare it to at that time. It's only been in the most recent years when you really think about it that we're seeing these women that look unreal. I mean, and some of them again, genetically gifted and amazing, good for them, but some of them might have had plastic surgery, some of them might edit their photos. And if we're thinking about Snapchat, right? Like Snapchat has these filters and Instagram has it too to make you look a certain way. And so people look at this version of themselves and they want to look like that unreal version of themselves. Or they look at someone else and they want to look like
Mhm.
that unreal version of that person too, not taking into account that, like, hey, this isn't real life. And so I struggled with that for years and I still struggle with it. But what has helped me is like snapping myself out of that, and to say, hey, this is what real looks like. You are fit, you are strong, you are trying your best. Again, I'm a work in progress. Where I am right now is going to be even better, a year from now. But I'm here because like I do want to break that barrier of what people assume, someone who's into fitness looks like that, a woman to be into fitness has to look like one of these influencers that we see on Instagram. Well, no. It's the woman or the man that, you know, shows up every single day for themselves and does their best and eats healthy and is consistent and trains and nourishes themselves and sleeps well and hydrates themselves and takes care of themselves. You know, that's what makes a fit person. That's what makes a strong person. Not based on like the size of the clothes that I wear, the number that's on the scale, but that's what we focus on because that's what we've been taught in society. That's how we've been brought up, that we have to weigh a certain amount with our height, and you know, we shouldn't lift too heavy, and we shouldn't do this, and we shouldn't do that. And we should be skinny, and we should have abs, and all this stuff. And it's like, you know what? It just might not be for some people. It might just not be in their genetics that they can have it. So I'm trying to like break the barrier and kind of say like, I don't know, stop being so hard on yourself. And I'm kind of giving myself my own advice that I should say to myself. But it's media, and these poor girls that are, 13, 14, 15 years old, they're growing up in the middle of this thing that we have going on of constantly comparing yourself to someone else, constantly. I mean, really, how many times, I don't know if this has happened to you, but it's happened to me, where I've been in a great mood and I log on to Instagram, and one thing just like, it's like, wow, why did I go on to see that, to see, this thing, this person, you're having a bad day, having a bad body image day, and you go online and you're like, oh, well, this, all right, cool. Like this person, it looks like they've got it easy, because they look amazing and I don't. So I can just imagine being a teenager and feeling that way. And I totally understand that study and what was found from it, because I mean, and it's for boys too, and males too. It's not just women, it's also males, that we, as people in a society, like we look at things that necessarily aren't real, and we internalize that, and we look at ourselves and we take that out on ourselves. And I feel like that's why people are depressed, or people, go to these lengths of, oh, I have to delete my social media for a period of time because they can't stand to see it. It definitely has an effect on their mental well-being.
The same study, you're right. The same study showed 1 in 7 boys suffered the same issues as women did. Mm-hmm. Slightly different. Boys are more concerned with something else. They're concerned with their body build, how much muscles they have, and their thigh. They're not as concerned with their weights as the girls are. But they're also they predicted 1 in 7 boys by the time they're 14. When they're 14, 1 in 7 have issues with the way they look. And then by the time they're 18, and these predictions are pretty spot on. Like they can, they're 80, like they can predict up to 80% of the symptoms that some of these teenagers would be experiencing. This also reminds me of what you're talking about, right? Because you're talking, I think, when we look at how social media, earlier when you said, I don't know if you feel this way when you go on social media, you get put into a bad mood. That's why I make it a point when I go on social media, I have an intention of going on social media. Most of the times when I go on social media, it's like, okay, I'm going to write an article. I'm going to share an article. I'm going to write up a post. I'm not going to really do much scrolling. Yeah. And also, I don't do Instagram that much for the very reason that we're talking about right now. I don't do Instagram because it's so easy for me to get lost in the scroll, and the search suggestions of all these fit women. It's insane. It's insane. All you see are these fit, beautiful women. I'm just like, all right, you know what? I can't be doing this anymore, even though I'm a dude. But also, I have a 2-year-old girl and a 3-year-old boy. My 2-year-old girl, she loves just dancing. She'll dance with her clothes off. She'll dance. And when you see a toddler dance, they just sway from side to side. They don't have any rhythm. They just dance. They're in the moment. And it's beautiful. It's beautiful because Who is telling them, oh, you shouldn't dance this way, or you shouldn't look like this, or you shouldn't dance naked, you're going to make a fool of yourself? Reminds me, have you ever heard of Brene Brown?
I have not.
She
No.
has this fantastic book called Gifts of Imperfection.
Mm-hmm.
She's a licensed social worker, very, very talented writer. And she talks about women and their self-image. She has a quote in her book called The Gifts of Self-Image. It goes something like, until we teach our children that they need to be concerned with how they look and with what other people think, they just dance. They even dance naked, not always gracefully or with the beat, but always with joy and pleasure.
Yeah.
And it just goes back to, where did we learn these standards? Who came up with
Yeah.
these standards that dictate how we should think and what we should look like? I mean, of course, we live in a civilized society, right? So there are standards, but we have to critically assess whether or not these standards are doing us any justice, right? Because I think as as a result, and also this reminds me of, there's a website called T Nation. It's called testosterone. It's short for
Mm-hmm.
Testosterone Nation. Of course, you could probably guess what it's about. And they do, they're pretty conservative in their approach in terms of, well, if you're fat, it's your fault. They came out with a meme the other day, and I had issue with it, right? Because some of the comments were really aggressive and nasty, basically saying weakness is a choice. And I'm thinking to myself, of course, a woman with self-image issues would probably never read T Nation. But their message is, their virtue signaling and gaslighting is not so far off than some of these fitness influencers who are posing half naked saying you got to work harder if you want to achieve the body of your dreams.
Mm-hmm.
Who's to say that they're not, these people are not working hard? Look, I will say, as a personal trainer, I am privy to this. I will say there's a percentage of people who say they're working hard, but they're actually not.
Yeah.
And is it my responsibility to call them out on their hypocrisy? Absolutely not. One of the best ways to turn somebody off from working with you, even if it's the truth, is to call them out on their bull crap. I'm
Mm-hmm.
not going to say, well, you say you want to look like this, but you're doing this. Why aren't you doing this? You say you want to look like that. I'm not going to do that, because now we're falling into the trap of comparative analysis again. I am not doing that. What am I going to do? I'm going to try to meet this person in the middle. All right, well, you say you want to look like this. You say you have an idea on what you can do to look like that. How can we get you to move closer to your goals? How
Yeah.
can we get you to move closer? What can we do? What can you do today? What are you capable of doing? What are you willing to do? Rather than, well, you need to put in the work. You need to work harder. You're not working hard enough. Yada yada yada. Because it's your and my responsibility to help people admit
Yeah.
to themselves that they might be doing something incorrectly. It's not our job to point it out. It's our job to help them realize it themselves.
Yeah.
But when you go onto social media and you see these fitness influencers in your face, their abs are popping out all over the place saying, you're not working hard enough, it makes people feel like shit.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not because people are victims. It's because, look, we're all products of our environments, right? Your background, your upbringing, I think they have tremendous influences on the way you view yourself, right? And just to blame somebody for not working hard enough, which is why they have health problems, I think is throwing the baby out with the bathwater.
Yeah.
That's my theory. That's my thought process.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. I mean, two things. You know, since I trained with you, your approach worked with me really well because it was different than the approach that anyone else had ever taken with me. Like, you never said to me, no, don't eat that. No, don't do that. Oh, you went out this weekend. Like, well, you're not going to make any progress now. You always like question me, like, okay, so what are your goals? And okay, so like what can we do to reach those goals? And all right, so like you had a bad weekend, and you know what? It's a new week. So, get back on it. And okay, so like maybe we could try this, maybe we could try that. That's not working for you. Let's do this. Like, you were very supportive, and obviously as we got to know each other, came down a little bit harsher, but which is because you knew me and you knew how I was and what I needed. But from the beginning, like what baffled me about you was that I was kind of like, this guy seems so simple. Like everything he does is just so simple. Like his workouts are simple, and like the way that he views nutrition is very simple. And I'm like, and he's telling me that I could eat this and I could eat that and I could do that. And I was like, this isn't gonna work. And then lo and behold, but it was your approach, which is wonderful. The second thing that I was gonna say is, we're talking about all these negative things about social media. A positive thing is though, is that there are these women and men that are standing up, and kind of in the ways that we're saying right now. And they're, I feel like we've all seen those photos of, like what people think, the photos that are taken 5 seconds apart. And people are revealing, this is what I looked like when I posed this way, but this is also what I look like when I pose this way, or there's women that are like, here's my cellulite and my stretch marks, which most of us have, myself included, and they're also saying, you don't need to be a size 2 to be fit, like look at my body. Like I'm proud of the work that I've done. I'm, in shape, but I'm just like a little bit thicker than what you would typically see. And that's okay, and that included too. Like they do like the 5-second transformation and they're sucking in and then they're, standing and their posture is whack and whatever it may be. And so like there are these people that are fighting back and they're like, hey, like this is what I look like on a day-to-day basis. And like, this is reality. And sometimes I'm bloated and sometimes I have abs and sometimes I feel good and sometimes I don't, and I think it's important that we do see those kinds of things. So I'm happy that there's starting to be this movement, this notion towards more of like a positive body attitude.
Yeah, I think so too. And of course, yeah, I think so too. I think it's about finding the balance, right? Because this is also, if we swing the pendulum too far, and also this is what I wanted to talk about earlier, is you do have what's called the body positive movement, health at every size, and fat acceptance. I think that is in large part a response to the stigma that a lot of people have the stigma of the teenager being dissatisfied with their weight, and it's just a retaliatory response to this virtue signaling, gaslighting of self-responsibility and just who cares, your feelings don't matter, work harder, right? And of course, being coaches like you and me, we have to allow our clients to assume some level of self-responsibility and autonomy, but also guide them in helping them understand and become aware of what that means, right? How much freedom and liberty do we give somebody versus how much control do we keep? Do
Yeah.
we, when somebody comes to us, they don't come to us because they just want to eat whatever they want, no matter how much freedom I give them, right? Because for me, I believe in order for somebody to make changes from the neck down, I have to see if they're ready from the neck up first.
Mm-hmm.
If they're not in the right headspace,
Yeah.
their body's not going to get in the right space either.
100% agree with that.
How much liberation and freedom should I give somebody versus what do the lanes look like? Where are the guardrails? But